Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we will begin in 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 1. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha, saying, Now where we left off, Baasha has now become king of the northern kingdom of Israel. He is the one who would end the reign of the line of Jeroboam, the man who caused Israel to sin. A man given such a great blessing by the Lord as to give him 10 of the 12 tribes, allowing him to take over the entire northern kingdom. But quickly he turns from God. Quickly he sets up twin altars, twin golden calves, telling his people to worship that they are Yahweh and to worship them. Worship them in Bethel and in Dan. Don't go back into Jerusalem, down into Judah. They're now our enemies. Don't go down into the temple like you were told and as you were commanded, but instead continue on, do these things, stay in this country. And because of that, he pushed out all the legitimate priests, all the legitimate Levites that would honor God and his word, and just began installing priests of any kind. And because of that wickedness, it was prophesied through Ahijah that the line of Jeroboam be cut off. And Nadab, the previous king before Baasha, was the final son of Jeroboam. He reigns for 2 years. He is evil. He chases after the false gods, just as his father did. And even worse is because of the fact that where Jeroboam was trying to set up things against, to lure his people to not go down to the temple, but still worship God, now false gods are rife through the country, rife through the nation. Everybody's got altars. Everybody's got idols. Everybody's got these false deities that they're going to pray to now and worship. And Nadab is even worse. But then here comes Baasha. Baasha rises up, slays Nadab, and becomes king. He takes over the northern kingdom. But now the Lord has a word for him as well, through Jehu, the son of Hanani. Now, as I believe I mentioned last time, when we were still speaking about the kings of the southern kingdom of Judah, we see Asa come into power. Now, Baasha comes in pretty quick. Nadab came in pretty much the second year of Asa's reign. Baasha just a couple years later. But towards the end of Asa's life, as he starts kind of pulling away from the strong work of God, that strong walk he had, where he was putting in reforms, he threw out his own grandmother from being queen mother because of the Asherah poles. The Lord sends Hanani to him. He sends a prophet to Asa. Asa hates what he says, and he imprisons Hanani. So now the Lord is using that son of that imprisoned prophet to go to the northern kingdom, to go against Baasha. Now, we say it all the time as Christians that the health, wealth, and prosperity gospel that is preached falsely by so many wolves is just completely contradictory to the way the Lord has ever worked. Here you have a young man whose father was a prophet. He was loyal to God, giving him a word. He goes to a king and is imprisoned for it. And then the Lord goes to him and says, you know what? I'm going to send you to a king. Not, I'm going to bless you in abundance because of the fact that your father did this thing for me, so now I'm going to make you king. No, you're going to go now. You know what? I'm going to put you in the same situation I put your father in. But never fear, because you're doing my will. This is the good work that I've placed before you, Jehu. Now, there'll be another Jehu in some chapters later, different person. This is the prophet Jehu, not the soldier and eventual King Jehu. But it's this willingness to do God's work, putting it before him, not something that would be easy after finding out that your father is imprisoned for doing the very thing that you are now going to be asked to do. Now, about the timing of it, did Hananiah get imprisoned after this happens? Possibly. Because the way that it continues to kick back and forth through Kings. But either way, you see these prophets being mistreated. And then the Lord calling them again to go out. Or calling someone close to them. Or someone who knows of them. And every time they still just continue to do it. It's not a hidden thing that the prophets during the time of Kings are heavily persecuted. That they're not seen as being great. The ones actually coming with the word of the Lord are not beloved by the people or by the authorities over the nations. At no point Elijah's on the run. Elisha seems to be a rarity, and he is one that is respected, if not completely always liked. But he was one that seemed to be respected, and people did come to him. But so often we see them pitted against the authorities. And here the Lord is now pitting Jehu against Baasha for a word for him. Because Baasha, in his deceit, in his wickedness, used as a tool for the glory of God to bring about the prophecy and fulfillment of the prophecy against Jeroboam. The Lord is now going to tell him the very same thing. That because of your wickedness, you're going to face the same fate as Jeroboam did. You were the final nail in the coffin for Jeroboam. You were the tool with which I used to nail his coffin shut. But now your punishment is coming. The Lord will raise up many people. He'll raise up people who are good and be good leaders. He will raise up people as bad people as a form of judgment over his children. Full knowing that they're evil. But they are still held accountable for their evil. The Lord uses what he knows we will do. There is nothing hidden from God. He knows what we will do, but that does not absolve us from making the choice and the responsibility of that choice in our lives. Baasha didn't have to be evil. Baasha didn't have to kill the king. But the Lord used him because that was the willingness of his heart. It's the question of, was Mary created to be the Theotokos? Or did the Lord use her knowing she was willing to be the Theotokos? Being a parent put this in perspective for me easily, because I know that I can give my children a choice. And I know what their choice will be. I already know whether they'll choose poorly or choose correctly. But that doesn't absolve them from their choice. My knowing what they are going to decide is not me deciding for them. Just because the Lord knew what Mary would choose, which is why he sent Gabriel to her, does not mean the Lord forced a choice upon her. That's where I disagree with Calvinism, because I disagree on the methodology used by God. They believe that it's irresistible, that everything is by the choice of God. And you have no choice. It's completely irresistible. But yet people should still be punished for the things they can't choose. I say the opposite. I say that we are responsible for our choices. And the path that is laid before us by God, He lays before us because He knew how we would choose. Because He is the beginning and the end. All things are the present to Him. So the Lord knew the nature of Baasha's heart, and at the same time, the nature of Hananiah's heart, the nature of Jehu's heart, the nature of Asa's heart. None of that absolves them from the decisions that they had to make, though. So Baasha followed his wickedness. Hananiah and Jehu following the will of the Lord, the good work that He set before them. They could have chose different, but they didn't, and the Lord knew they wouldn't. So here comes Jehu coming against Baasha, saying, "Inasmuch as I lifted you out of the dust and made you ruler over my people Israel, and you have walked in the way of Jeroboam, and have made my people Israel sin, to provoke me to anger with their sins, surely I will take away the posterity of Baasha and the posterity of his house, and I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. The dog shall eat whoever belongs to Baasha and dies in the city, and the birds of the air shall eat whoever dies in the fields." The very same prophecy. The very same prophecy. I'm going to prophesy the same fate for you. If they die in a city, they're going to be scavenged by dogs. If they die in the field in battle, they're going to be left for the birds, for the carrion birds. No one will receive a proper burial of the family of Baasha because of your wickedness. Now, if Baasha had acted completely willing to God, they had no choice in the matter, then this is a very unjust fate for Baasha. Because if he had no choice, if this is exactly the Lord's will for him, and he did everything according to the Lord's will, how could the Lord be angry with him? He was a proper tool, used properly. But because I believe that God is not just completely sovereign, but that He is completely just, I believe that Baasha's actions are what God is angry with. That call is on the heart of all of us. That the law is etched into all of our hearts. That we all have a choice to make. And Baasha chose poorly. Now the Lord knew Baasha would choose what he chose. And because of that, He can rightfully and perfectly punish him and enact justice upon him. Because there's no extenuating circumstances. We are laid bare before God. Therefore, He is able to perfectly judge. Now, sometimes people will speak about the fact that He says, well, I've lifted you. I've made you do this. Because God is sovereign over all. The buck stops with the authority, and the authority typically gets the recognition of what happens. See, we have a president, so we'll always say, well, the president did this. The president's economy was good. The president's economy tanked. He did it. It's really not him, though, is it? Most of the things that happen inside a presidential administration are not actually the ideas of the president, or not enacted by the president, or not carried out by the president. They are done by a massive administration Do each individual person get credit? No. They might get recognized, but the buck stops with the president. Why? Because it was under his watch. He either permitted or denied what happens. So therefore, when it says, hey, the Lord allowed a dark spirit to come upon Saul and trouble him, well, does that mean the Lord actually sent that to him? Or because he is sovereign over all, he allowed it to happen and removed his protection from Saul, allowing it and permitting it to come upon him? The Lord will get credit for all because he is sovereign over all. But this is just the way we speak. The sovereign always gets credit. Look at all the acts of the kings. Now the rest of the acts of Baasha, what he did in his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? Did everything that happened under Baasha's kingship, was that directly from him? Did his generals do things? Did his self-proclaimed priests do things that now he is taking the fall for, that he is the one taking the consequences for? Because he either permitted it or promoted it. The Lord will allow us free will. Did God create Adam to fall? A lot of people will say no. But if you hold to the thinking that everybody has to do as God permitted, then they have no choice at all, then you'd have to say yes. God did not create a perfect garden. He did not create a perfect man. He did not create a perfect world. Because he created him to fall for his glory. Whereas I would say God gives us free will and he permits us to choose. And his knowing the choice does not interfere with our making of the choice. We have a choice to make. And you have juxtaposed two people. One who followed the will of the Lord and did what was right, the good work set before him in Jehu, the prophet. And you have the wicked king Baasha, who will pay for the choices he made and the sin he brought upon his own people. So Baasha rested with his fathers and was buried in Tirzah. Then Elah, his son, reigned in his place. And also, the word of the Lord came by the prophet Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha and his house, because of all the evil that he did in the sight of the Lord, in provoking him to anger with the work of his hands, and being like the house of Jeroboam, and because he killed them. So he's even punishing for the killing of Jeroboam, a killing that was prophesied, and that Baasha was utilized for. He was the tool. But Elah is now going to come up as this chapter 16 is going through the reigns of the kings of Israel, of that northern kingdom. Now, in the last installment with Asa, because we have the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah, we can bounce back and forth. Since we do not have the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, we can't bounce back and forth with that. There are times where Chronicles does intersect with the Kings of Israel, but typically that is only when dealing with the kings of Judah who intersect with them. You know, if you go to Second Chronicles, I think it's 16 or 17, you'll see Jehoshaphat. And then you'll see the evil King Ahab from the northern kingdom. But the only reason that is because Jehoshaphat is interacting with King Ahab. But one last statement upon the whole idea of having responsibility placed on you for the actions of others. You have David, considered the murderer of Uriah, even though he didn't murder him by his own hand, but because he permitted Uriah to be killed by the swords of the Amalekites. So, in the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, Elah, son of Baasha, became king over Israel and reigned 2 years in Tirzah. So you can see that these reigns are very short. They're short because there is so much chaos and wickedness and a complete lack of an anchoring morally into the Lord in the northern kingdom. Everybody is doing such great wickedness, and everybody is fighting to get to the top because no one holds true to the words of David when his own mighty men were telling him to kill King Saul. And that is that I will not reach out my hand against the anointed of God. So when there's a good king, now there will be bad kings that reign long periods of time. But you see Asa ends up reigning a long time. There's a semblance of peace in the southern kingdom because of the steady leadership of a guy who was reforming the nation to go back to following the Lord. But this northern kingdom is completely against God, living in complete and total depravity against God, worshiping Baals, worshiping Ashtoreth, worshiping these foreign deities that the Lord had warned them again and again and again not to get involved with. So here you have Elah. You know the prophecy against Baasha. Here is his son. He reigns 2 years. And why? Now his servant Zimri, commander of half his chariots, conspired against him as he was in Tirzah, drinking himself drunk in the house of Arza, steward of his house in Tirzah. So he's a drunkard, completely getting plastered. No sense of the responsibility that should come with the kingship. No sense of a responsibility that you are to set an example for your people. So now you have this Zimri looking to raise up himself. You have this king who is seemingly completely out of his mind, not attending to what he's supposed to do. So here's a military commander, Zimri, commander of half the chariots, half the army of Elah. He's sitting here going, you know what? This isn't going to happen. We need strong leadership. And we see this all the time throughout history, that you have a king that is overindulgent and the military commander decides, you know what? This country needs discipline. I'm the man to bring it. So Zimri in his pride decides, you know what? I'm going to conspire against him because I know what is best. So here we have Zimri, just like Baasha, being used as a tool to bring about the prophecy and judgment of God. And Zimri went in and struck him and killed him in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his place. Then it came to pass when he began to reign, as soon as he was seated on the throne, that he killed all the household of Baasha. He did not leave one male, neither of his relatives nor his friends. So if we go back to Mephibosheth with David, that was the fear of Mephibosheth. That David is now trying to root out any person with a claim to the throne of Saul. Because this is what people did when they came into power. This was the wickedness of man's heart. This is what you had to do to ensure that no one would place a claim on the throne. You come through this military coup. You're the strongest. So now the throne of the northern kingdom at this point, from Baasha to Elah, now to Zimri, it's become a battle of King of the Mountain. The game we all played as kids, climbing up on top of something, and now you just have to keep throwing people off or they need to drag you down. Now Zimri's on the throne because he is the strongest. And now you need to unseat him. But for anybody who will try to make a claim to the throne, to try to raise up a rebellion, nothing. As soon as he's on the throne, he is slaughtering everyone. Not just his relatives, not just his children, but his cousins, his uncles, anybody of a blood relation, and then anybody who's even remotely friends who could have been loyal to him. Slaughtering them. That way there is no one who will possibly raise themselves up against Zimri. Not a single soul to stand against him. That way he could stand alone on the top of that mountain. Thus Zimri destroyed all the household of Baasha according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke against Baasha by Jehu the prophet. For all the sins of Baasha and the sins of Elah his sons, by which they had sinned and by which they made Israel sin, in provoking the Lord God of Israel to anger with their idols, because they did not bring them down. They did not destroy and bring about the proper worship to the people. They are each being held to account for their actions and for their inactions. Baasha, Elah, Nahab, they have not attempted to do the reforms that Asa did. They are not trying to walk in the way of David. They each have a choice to just bring about reform or let their nation sit in the complacency that they've become, the sin that they've become. And they're not trying to bring about a reform. They are kings over people. If they had reformed their own household, it would have spread out from them. But instead, they became so enamored with being on the throne that they didn't do what it took to remain on the throne. And because of that, they are no longer on the throne. They are now slaughtered themselves because of the wickedness of their hearts. They are giving their people what they want, wickedness and idolatry, to be given over to what is right in their own eyes, which was the lesson of the judges, the cautionary tale, to avoid what is right in your own eyes because it leads to judgment of God. And the northern kingdom is being constantly judged and judged and judged. But we get a picture of God's long-sufferingness in this judgment as well. We get a picture of the long-sufferingness because of the fact that God did not just cause this kingdom to be wiped off the map. But like he told Abraham, that your descendants will go into a land that's not their own, because the inhabitants of Canaan have not yet brought their iniquity to the full. When their iniquity begins to overflow and becomes a point where it cannot be turned back from, then I will remove them, and judgment will come. Well, the northern kingdom is facing the same thing. As wicked as it is, it's going to get even more wicked. It has not come to the full yet. There are still, as Abraham went up against God and argued with God over Sodom and Gomorrah, Lord, if there is even 10 righteous people, will you spare Sodom and Gomorrah? You can see this with the northern kingdom, that there must be some people in there worth saving. And until there is no one left worth saving, God will patiently withhold his judgment. We see the same thing written in the epistles of Paul, that the Lord's coming, the Lord's return, is being withheld until the fullness of the Gentiles is brought in. Until the last person to be saved is saved, the Lord will tarry. So as we sit here now and we look at the world and we say, Lord, please just come back. Lord, this place can't get any worse. Our country is so despicable. We look at other countries, we look at our Christian brothers and sisters being martyred and slaughtered and stoned and beaten to death for your name. We see them being crucified and then having their heads blown off. Both, actually. Not one or the other in Syria. Both. Lord, just come back. But because he is ever patient, he knows there are still some yet who will profess him as Lord, who will fall to submit to him, who will believe that he is risen from the dead and are willing to live with him in eternity, to be in his presence. Because the fullness of the Gentiles has not come yet. During this time in the northern kingdom, there is a chance to turn back. There are still good people, and judgment is being withheld. And that is the nature of our world now. We are awaiting our king. See, if you know the story of the northern kingdom, you know you're basically sitting here waiting for Assyria to just come in and wipe this northern kingdom off the map, to carry all these people into exile. You're waiting for that judgment of God to come. Well, we are very much waiting for the same thing. When Jesus returns, he is not coming back as some hippy-dippy, loving, universally accepting Jesus. He is coming back as a conquering king to bring forth judgment upon those who have rejected him in the good news that he brought. Judgment is coming when the fullness of the Gentiles has been revealed and has been realized. What we are living in now is not the tardiness of God. It is the grace and long-suffering patience of God. And if you're one of the people who have not bowed the knee to him, who have not submitted yourself to his authority, not just said, I believe Jesus. Jesus has been in my heart. I love hippie Jesus. No, but you are now submitted to the authority of the all-powerful King of Kings. If you have not done that, don't allow this period of gracefulness to pass you by. We are living in the calm before the storm. This is the ever-enduring patience of God with a wicked creation that he wishes to reconcile to himself. But there are only two camps. You are either for or against. If you do not have salvation in submitting yourself to the work of Christ, that finished work on the cross, then you are awaiting judgment. And judgment will come, either in this life or in the next. And you will not like it. But by that point, it will be too late, because every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. You will either be doing it as one who is draped in his righteousness, or you will be doing it as one who cringes before the wrath of the Lamb. There are only two sides. Take advantage of the calm before the storm. Take advantage of being in this moment where God's ever-enduring patience stands before us. Because once that fulfillment has come, it is too late. Once your last breath is taken, it is too late. And we don't know when that last breath comes. So don't wait until you are at death's door. Use the breath that he has placed in your lungs to profess his kingship, to submit yourself to his authority, to be cloaked in his righteousness, and to be counted among his sheep. So that's where we shall finish it for today. I hope this was fruitful for you. I hope to see you back again next time. But until then, be blessed.